Hey everyone, welcome to today's Jeff Heilman Project. You've tuned in and turned on, if you're watching us via YouTube, to the go-to podcast for the systematizing of success in both your family and your business. And we're so glad that you're here. How to handle and how to manage a career change is what we're going to be talking about today. And I would love to know your opinion, honey, with each of your different endeavors. Do you believe that those were significant identity and career, like actual career changes? Or do you believe that once you found and locked into, like, I'm a sales professional, that's my career, and I'm just going to be doing it in all of these different platforms? Or would you consider each different thing an entirely new reinvention, I guess is my point. Because reinventing ourselves and doing a career change can appear very scary and can sound very scary, but I think that there are a lot of aspects we take from one experience into the next and might not necessarily be a whole identity shift. It's just a different application to what you were prior doing.
There's a difference between career and making money. If we look at the word career, where it comes from, it actually goes back to Roman times. It comes from the Latin word that is like a rut in the road. It's like a rut that a wagon or a chariot wheel is going to find its lowest point in the road, and it's going to keep it kind of on the rails. So if you think about a modern version of a career would be like railroad rails. Your life is on a path, and it doesn't mean you can't switch tracks. The key to building wealth is really about momentum. And the reason why Warren Buffett and everybody else talks about personal growth and don't lose money is because the things that take you out at the knees and the things that have taken me out at the knees financially have pretty much been career changes. I've talked about the fact that I think I'm on 51 jobs and counting, but I went through the list of jobs and I'm like, all right, for this episode of the Jeff Heilman Project, let's take a look not at the companies that I've worked for, but at the different jobs that I did to give people an idea of the, I guess you could say, the breadth of knowledge of what somebody could do in a 30-year career, although mine's longer than that because I started working much earlier and I didn't go to school like most people did. I have a different relationship with school than most people. Let me start with separating out and saying a career is ruts in the road. And you know, people talk about ruts in a negative way, but I mean this actually in a positive way, that when it rains, those wagon wheels need to find a rut in the road so that they can keep in the center of the road, because otherwise the mud will slide. You know, you can slide off the road without having rails to stay on. So your career path is really the rails. Now, what you do to make money could be inside or outside of that career, but the career is really a kind of self-validating, continuous process of reiteration of identity over a period of time. My first career path where I actually worked to create an income was lawn care. I had some customers in my neighborhood that I would go and I would mow lawns. Then I realized I could make more money in less time moving from mowing lawns to detailing cars. And then I got a job as a janitor, and then I upgraded from janitor to retail, and then I upgraded from retail to food service, and then I upgraded from food service to hospitality. And that could be, hotels, golf courses, waiting tables, working a beverage cart at a golf course, those types of things. I spent some time in direct selling and door-to-door selling, multi-level selling. I sold health equipment in a mall for about 7 or 8 months. I got involved in real estate management and apartment leasing. I worked for a barcode repair facility up in Portland when you and I first got married. Actually, I think I worked there until I got married because I was fired the day I got back from my honeymoon. I did hardware, like custom cabling and pin-out work at Electronic Cash Register Systems in Portland. I think they were in Beaverton, actually, because I was commuting to up 217, Cruiseway 217. I started a commercial janitorial business, pivoted that to a commercial painting company, moved to reselling hardware, the Nerite 2080 plus PinPad U.S. Merchant Systems direct selling reseller business. Did that for about a year. I resold software. That's not the same as manufacturer, but I resold for a partner for a company called IPT Computerland, where I sold software and services for. I did that IPT Computerland. I did Presidio, and I worked for Extra Team for days before I got fired from both of those. Software sales manufacturing. That's where I started to make more money moving into Perfigo and startups and getting into Cisco and other big companies like that. I did contract to perm recruiting for a couple of years, including but not limited to enterprise app integration software development, outsourcing, selling for a body shop down in San Diego and in Texas. I had a newspaper route for a period of time. I did credit card collections and debt recovery. I did a series of software startups, one of which I was co-founder and executive of. I worked in corporate life for Intel and Cisco and Oracle and CA Technologies and IBM. I did project management consulting, where I was actually doing non-billable instances out of Oracle with Equinix as a client of mine, working through another guy that had me sitting as the on-site project manager for an India development team. I was a startup co-founder, Tagile Storage, in 2009. I've done sales management and management consulting and now private equity. So this list is 23 or 24 different types of jobs. And one could say they're all within a career of business, right? Like I've never made money as a prize fighter. I've never made money as a professional athlete, although I played professional golf for 10 years. I never made money at it. I've never been an artist or a professional singer or an electrician or somebody in the trades. Commercial painting's kind of a trade, I guess you could say, but like an electrician or a carpenter. When you're looking at all these changes, I would be interested in the comments to see like what people have to say about 25 different types of jobs over a period. But what I can tell you is that every single move that I made was a step up. It was the ability to keep working hard, but do less work to get more money.
Yeah, I think
more leverage, right?
I think that's definitely what today's topic is most centered around, is not necessarily the manifestation of a major shift between one career or one passion for another, because those are pretty few and far between. There's probably only a very handful of people that have gone from like, I'm going to be a doctor and then now I'm going to be a scuba diver. Like but it is very common and very familiar to be facing transition and to constantly be put into the position to where you've got to make a change. And in that position of needing to make a change, you have to have some sort of system in place or some sort of an understanding of what to do when your whole world gets turned upside down, and how did you continuously make that choice to find and to see the next best step. Like how is it, if we could say
That's
that
right.
there was a system
That's
for
right.
the next best step, or the nearest related unknown, we just make it a practice to go through and look and locate the nearest related unknown
That's
to
right.
what we're doing, versus a major upheaval of we're just going to sell everything. I mean, I watch House Hunters all the time. They're selling everything they got and they're moving to Indonesia, or they're selling everything that they got and they're going to move to the farm. Those are major shifts, and those, I would say, are probably huge career changes. The normal person who's just trying to get it through to a happy, healthy, successful retirement, the people that are watching, the majority of the people that are watching or listening are looking to be able to say, dude, I'm facing a change. I know it's coming. I'm in a transition. It's here. How do I make that shift? Is there a system for the shift?
The simplest thing that I could tell people is find out where money is flowing. You don't have to come up with all the answers. Like NVIDIA is hiring. ServiceNow is hiring. Apple is still hiring. And you work backwards from that. And you could say, well, I don't really have the engineering skill. That's okay. If you read the Wall Street Journal, if you read the New York Times, you're going to see where money is flowing. Right now, money is flowing into AI, into infrastructure, into electric grid, into server. I mean, I was talking to a couple guys on the street the other day about Western Digital. Western Digital was not exactly a thrilling, it was a great exit for us because we didn't lose, we got our $175 million back for the VCs that put their money in. So that was, or $150 million, whatever it was. It was not enough to pay anybody but the VCs. That's how much it was. But Western Digital bought our company and then they shelved the technology, and it was like, yeah, they're just like, and also ran in the storage business. But now when you look at the infrastructure demands on AI and the compute that's required, there are only a handful of companies that actually have scale built into their models. So storage, Cisco stock has tripled since I was there. because of the infrastructure. Oracle Compute has doubled and tripled with, $500 billion in purchase orders around AI. So look at where money is going. And some people, maybe there's a bowling alley that's hiring in your small town and you're 20 years old and you're just trying to find $20 an hour. That's okay too.
I was just about to add that don't let where the money is flowing limit your belief to your particular skill. And for example, I have a friend whose son is in management at Apple and is doing very well in the Silicon Valley in management at Apple. And you'll ask her and you'll say, hi, wow, that's really great. Did he go to school you immediately perceive that, in order to be in management at Apple, he's got this IT degree or he's been, whatever. And she's like, yeah, he's in management at Apple. He manages the cafeteria at Apple. He's a badge-wearing Apple employee.
Yeah, Apple employee, Apple benefits,
all
Apple
of it,
stock.
Apple benefits, Apple stock, Apple everything.
But he's doing it
he's in the career path that he started out in by getting he was a contract from the kitchen, in kitchen service as a teenager doing the work, trade work of working in a kitchen, to getting hired on as contract at Apple, to then becoming more through his skill sets and through his talents, being able to be hired full-time, and then now being able to manage and run the entire cafeteria at corporate Apple. Wherever the money is flowing, there will always be an opportunity for someone with skill to add value. And regardless of whatever your skill set might be, there's full-time employees at Google that are on the janitorial staff that are reaping all of the benefits, including the employee benefits, by being a janitor at the, Google headquarters. So I think a big part of the Jeff Heilman project is taking down and tearing apart stereotypes and stigma, which might say that a trade job isn't as important as an CEO position or we've done it. Jeff has done them all. And if his case study of how many he has done.
CEO, but I've been
not yet.
I've
practically,
owned my own deal,
you're your own.
I actually did a video. Now this applies to sales people. Even if you don't have a job, but you want to get a job, this will work for you. There was a period of time in 2015. I wanted to get a job fast, and I had a crystal clear picture in my mind of where I wanted to go. I wanted to sell analytics. I knew that analytics and big data was going to be hot. It had been something that inside of Intel we had been talking about and working on for 3 or 4 years. I thought originally that GE was going to be a winner in that area, and they were cratering. So a friend recommended that I look at IBM. So I set my sights on IBM. IBM was the closest thing to AI that we didn't really... Yeah, Watson Analytics in 2015, that was the closest thing we had. I think ChatGPT and OpenAI may have been in process or in beta back then, but it certainly wasn't like what we see today. So the closest thing that I could see to that was Watson Analytics. So I made a decision that I was going to do everything I could to get a job. I wanted to get a job as fast as I could. And I put a video together about how in a week I made a few hundred calls, and I sent out one email to about 400 or 500 people, and I got 72 job interviews scheduled that turned into 30 actual interviews that I got done before the offers just started piling up, and I had to cancel the rest of the interviews. And it led to 11 written offers and the dream job at IBM selling Watson Analytics. It also doubled my income, which was my goal. My OTE income doubled from like 200K to 400K. I got a signing bonus. I got to pick my start date. I got to put a severance package from Intel plus 12 weeks of PTO in the bank. And I was able to take a month off and take my kids to Disneyland. And that job took me a week to find because of a massive amount of volume. Again, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, you don't necessarily want to work a burnout pace your whole life. But this was a pretty good use case. I found out I was getting laid off on a Wednesday afternoon, and by Friday afternoon the following week, I'd secured employment at my dream job.
I think it's just an awesome testament to the concept of your practice is your performance. The time when you are called to action is just the exhibition of what you've been practicing this entire
right.
time.
That's right.
And so, like when we had our son, a junior Olympic diver, and he would practice. Michael Phelps spent 12 years practicing for the performance, which was just 35 minutes of completed race time. For my son, he would practice, and then on competition day, I would just encourage him, just relax. Like, if you don't know it by now,
Yeah.
like it ain't gonna happen. You ain't gonna throw the triples. Like, this
It's
is
gonna
not
be way
this is
easier
not
for
the
you to
time.
stay in the
So when
zone.
we take that mental understanding that while we're not shifting and we're actually getting used to a routine and developing the rut of the quote career, that's the performance. That's the, what am I doing daily to dig this rut deeper? What am I doing daily to become better and more, adding more value in the thing that I'm putting my attention to where then when the, the stuff hits the fan, or the job goes away, or the something shifts unexpectedly, this is what I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how to do it, and I know exactly when to apply pressure and how to apply pressure.
Got a text earlier today with a friend of mine saying that things weren't really going his way. When I think about career changes, most of the career changes came as a result of things not going my way. Either a manager didn't understand what I was trying to do, or a VP got offended at something I said because I had confidence, and their confidence came from a title. My confidence came from skill and trying to do the right thing for the business, which of course, somebody who's emotionally compromised or morally compromised that doesn't care about doing what's right for the business might get offended at that, because it exposes, not because I'm doing anything wrong or because they're horrible people, but because, that squishy Oreo cookie middle management layer oftentimes is just trying to hide all the work that's not getting done so they can keep their job. They don't want to be exposed. They don't want somebody coming along saying, hey, we need to do what's right for the business here. They're like, no, I need to do what's right so I can save my job, and I don't really know how to do that. So a lot of times when somebody comes along and is trying to take that moral authority route to say, hey, we're trying to do what's right for the business here. There's a lot of people involved. If we do what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they say. When you come up against managers, CEOs, who have built their business based on intensity instead of identity, which gets back to WinStack. You want to talk cultural change management? WinStack. That's what gets it done. People who built their business on intensity, who come head to head with somebody who's coming from a position of integrity and identity, typically there's going to be conflict there. And pretty much every single one of these jobs, I was doing the job, but I was working for someone who was focused on intensity versus identity, who was focused on immediate short-term benefits versus building a culture of performance that would, over the long haul, do better. So what I would say is, in the long run, the reason why I was able to move from cutting my neighbor's grass when I was 7 for $5 to making millions of dollars a year in private equity after dropping out of school and living in my car is not because I'm super smart. I don't see myself as particularly intelligent or particularly gifted or particularly anything. But I have focused my entire existence in my life on making the best contribution that I can with as much leverage as I can find, and growing in my understanding of both the contribution and the leverage and the people that I'm serving that I possibly can. And it has been a red hot, burning obsession to pivot, as Tony Robbins says, away from I'm a badass motherfucker, all you have to do is ask me, significance, which then kills connection to people. Or do you like me? Your validation-seeking behavior, kind of beta, weak, socially incompetent, emotionally compromised people who are just trying to get along. Nothing wrong with that. It's a defense posture, and I understand it. But you're not going to be in a position of influence if you do that. You won't be significant. You won't be influential if you're trying to get people to like you. So if you try to get people to like you, you lose the influence. If you try to sequester influence through significance, you lose the connection from the very people that you're trying to influence. So those two are both fails. And then if you look at certainty and variety, certainty says, I want to watch a great movie tonight. Variety says it can't be the same movie I watched last night or last year even. But my focus has not been on certainty. It's not been on variety. It's not been on significance, and it's not been on connection through validation-seeking behavior. My focus has been on contribution and growth. Make the biggest contribution that I can with the most amount of leverage, and then bust my ass every effing day to make sure that I'm getting better, sharper, smarter, more masterclasses, more books on tape, more books being read, more of the greats. I mean, have you gone through the library of stuff that Walter Isaacson's built? I've got, I'm doing Leonardo, Da Vinci, and Albert Einstein right now. Next up will be Jobs and Musk. Next up will be innovators. But I'm forcing myself every single day, 3-4 hours a day of content and reading and structure and video and audio and books on tape and chat GPT prompts to try to figure out real-time feedback to make sure, am I doing everything that I can do to crush, just like the best innovators and CEOs have done. And then you just add leverage to that and apply constraint theory, and you can make amazing progress in your career. And if you look at from the time that I was really out in the workplace, I would say 22 to 25, and then within 7 or 8 years, I'm going from 20 grand a year to $300,000 a year in sales in 10 years, all just from personal development, listening to Tony Robbins tapes and reading books and books on tape and going to seminars and reading and studying. And the 1 mark hack for channeling dopamine to get through procrastination. Here's my 1 mark process. If you are looking for work, number 1, I would say take out a piece of paper and write 1 mark on the paper. It could be drawing a circle and naming it. Just draw a circle and name it job. And you go, okay, then you start drawing arrows out from that and you say, all right, I need to draw another circle, people that I know. I need to know like what people need. Draw another circle, write what people need. Then we look at skills, adjacencies, right? And you just start, just take out a piece of paper and make 1 mark. Number 2 is remove the expectation of finishing anything for that session. Picasso never did a painting in a single session unless he was being filmed, and then it was, just some throwaway painting. It wasn't really trying to do anything. Never work to finish something when you're trying to do something creative. Give yourself 1 mark and then remove the pressure to finish. That's part 2. Remove the pressure. Then number 3, instead of working to finish or working till a bell goes off or working till a Pomodoro timer, work until you pass the peak of your hunger to continue. So work to the peak. And as soon as you peak, then number 4, work to the peak is 3. Number 4 is stop and then go take a break. I don't care if it's 3 minutes, because what will happen is your brain will actually produce a metadata cache. It'll structure and organize in your mind the work that you're doing. And while you're away from it, it'll catalog it and come back to it. Case in point, I was working through what I call a wireframe first draft of a 6-page document that I need to present. I'm like, all right, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I took 1 page. I needed to do 6 pages. I took 1 page and I said, I'm going to draw a little 3x5 card effectively. I took a regular sheet of binder paper and cut it and just folded it into 6 parts. And I said, okay, 1 page. So I wrote out what I thought the 1 page would be. And I was exhausted at the end of that. And I stepped away from it. And I took a 15-minute walk after 3 to 5 minutes of working on that paper. But then I came back to it and my mind was ready. And I did the next 5 pages in 1 shot. I never ran out of juice. So what'll happen is your mind will build frameworks and folders and pieces and thoughts while you're stepping away from something, using that work as a way to prompt your own self, your own chat GPT in your own brain, if you will. So the 1 mark process for hacking dopamine cycling for getting rid of procrastination. Make 1 mark on the page, remove your pressure to finish in that session. Work until you hit the peak dopamine hunger level for continuation, and then stop and then rest and come back to it. And I think what you'll find is you can put 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in, and all of a sudden they become like little bullets, and you just you keep shooting these bullets, and you'll make an incredible amount of progress in a short period of time because you're actually working on the problem while you're stepping away from it at a subconscious level. Then you come back with structured, focused, sharpened chisel, a big hammer, and you start hammering away at the rock. Okay, next point that I wanted to make was if you didn't get a job, talk to people, go find YouTubes, listen to YouTubes, and go find where the money is going. because their money for your next job that you need to get is going to come from an investment bank, a private equity fund, a venture capital fund, a public market, the firing or laying off of a bunch of people that then frees up capital to hire new people back for big companies. So go see where the money's moving around. And then career versus making money. I would say if you need to make money, go find where the money's moving around. But long term, what your career is going to be, observe through the years the things that you find that you're really good at. I find that I'm exceptional at writing. I would not have thought of that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but I'm actually really, really good at writing. Writing uses language frameworks and rule sets for me that are very easy. I'll just sit down and I'll just write a poem, or I'll write a story, or I'll write a narrative about a business deal, and it doesn't take me very long at all. I can write hundreds of lines, tens of pages without much effort at all. I'm good at talking, but I think I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. So figure out what things work well for you, and then try to map what those skills would be in the marketplace, and then figure out what you like, right? Joseph Campbell just says, follow your joy. Naval Ravikant says, if I'm doing what I enjoy doing and you're doing something because you think it's going to make you money, I'm going to run circles around you because you're going to have to compete with somebody who loves what they're doing. And it's going to make it very, very difficult to compete. So that's a wrap for this week for the Jeff Heilman Project. It is getting hot here in the garage in San Jose where we cut our podcast. But please do post any comments that we can be helpful. We'll go ahead and upload the documents and the presentations that we talked about in this episode.
Yes, on our website at thejeffheilmanproject.com.
And thanks for tuning in. And we hope that this content is valuable to you. We're making it because we feel like we should, and we want to make it good, and we want to make it fun and clean. Let us know how we're doing and how we can make it better. We appreciate the feedback, and have a great week.
Subscribe, and share.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.